Hello, everybody, and welcome to Steelbook Obsessed. My name is Jake, and today is a big day. Every year, I try to watch as many movies as I possibly can that come out that year. And in 2024, I thought I did a pretty good job. I want to say I watched 87 movies that came out in 2024. And today, we're going to rank them all from my worst to my best, from my best to my least best. I mean, there are some very, very big turds in this punch bowl. And we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and just the mediocre. If you like this type of content, make sure you like and subscribe. This video, I'm assuming, is going to be semi on the longer side. So maybe put it on in the background when you're doing something else. This is also going to be on my podcast server, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to a podcast. Just type in Steelbook Obsessed and hear my soothing voice because I hear I have a good one. So let me waste no more time and start getting right into the list. Over on Letterboxd, I rank a movie a day, folks, okay? And we're going to start at the very bottom of this list where I, throughout the year, rank movies as soon as I see them. We're starting with number 87 here, and that movie is Lift. If you've never heard of it, congratulations, you kind of dodged a bullet on this. This is a Kevin Hart movie, a starring movie, not directed movie, of course. It's a heist film, though. I love me a heist film. F. Gary Gary, directed Straight Outta Compton. My God, I love Straight Outta Compton. Fate of the Furious was okay. He directed Friday. He directed The Italian Job. He's directed a lot of great movies, okay? But he also directed this turd, my least favorite movie of 2024. Here's my Letterboxd review. When this movie started with the heist of an NFT, I was out. I love a solid heist film, but this one was just lazy on every level, with Kevin Hart bringing absolutely nothing to the table here. It's been a minute since I've seen an actor sleepwalk through a movie as terribly as Hart does here. Even Vincent D'Onofrio couldn't save this nothing burger of a film. 1.5 out of 5. Not great. Don't even want to waste any more time talking about it because it's literally not worth any more breath. And yes, Lift is worse than number 86 on my list. Madam Web, people. I know that this movie takes place in 2003, but that doesn't mean that the movie had to feel like it was made in 2003. This is a prime example of a superhero movie that didn't need to be made. It's neither so bad it's good nor too bad to watch. It's just a movie that you forget as soon as it's over, and that's the worst sin a movie can do. Like, I literally remember I remember the end fight scene, which is very, very dumb with everybody kind of coming together. Everything about this movie is just bad. I remember the Madam Web costume of it all when this movie was done. Like, this movie just sucks. This movie is not great. I'm so happy that this Sony Spider-Verse spin-off cycle of movies is over. I've not seen Craven yet. I saw Morbius. That one was not great either. A little bit better than Madam Web, but still not good at all. Now we are going to go up to 81 through 85, and we are going to do Thelma the Unicorn. Yes, another Netflix original movie, but main reason why I wanted to watch this is because it was directed by Jared Hess. Jared Hess, maker of Napoleon Dynamite, maker of Nacho Libre, like movies that I really enjoyed when they originally came out. And he just made a movie not too long ago with Muscles and Mayhem, which I really had a good time with as well. I rated this 3.5 out of 5 stars. Muscles and Mayhem, the unauthorized story of American Gladiators. I love me American Gladiators. Love me Napoleon Dynamite. I have 2 daughters, so I watch a lot of animated films. Thelma the Unicorn, I was hoping for better things. I also gave this one a 1.5 out of 5. This movie is so by the books and cookie cutter that there's no reason over the age. There is no reason over the age of 12 to watch this movie. That's a misspelling by me, mistypo. My 5-year-old loved it, but it was like pulling teeth out for me. 1.5 out of 5 stars. Not great. Will never watch this again. Just so forgettable. A lot of these movies in the lower echelon are very, very forgettable. Borderlands, woof, dude. I played Borderlands 1 and 2 religiously. I loved both of those games. Did not play 3. I kind of got out of video games by the time. I played a little bit of the pre-sequel as well, but I loved these games from Gearbox. The movie, on the other hand, my God, and I love Eli Roth too. I thought combining both of them was a interesting choice to say the least. Here's my review. This movie has some of the worst CGI I've seen in a movie made in the past 10 years. My God, there's a fight scene in the desert that just looked so green screeny that I absolutely hated it. It made me laugh at what was happening when this movie's funny at times. This one was not a funny fight. This was like a serious fight. Like, oh, let's do cool action set pieces, and this had none of that. This movie is trying to capture that magic Guardians of the Galaxy formula, and it never even gets close. Kate Blanchett is the only great part. Claptrap has his moments, and Jamie Lee Curtis is aight. The rest of the cast and movie in general is so forgettable it hurts. I'm an Eli Roth fan, but man, he should never jump back into a huge budget blockbuster again. And if this means that he's stuck in Thanksgiving sequel jail, this might be a blessing in disguise. 2 out of 5. I love Thanksgiving. I thought Thanksgiving was one of my favorite horror movies that came out in 2023, I believe. And yeah, like this one is just nope. We don't even need to talk about it anymore. Same with my number 83, If Imaginary Friend. I know some people liked this movie. I saw it in a drive-in paired with Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. I think my kids really enjoyed this movie. I did not. Wow, what a giant waste of time. It's too slow for kids and too uninteresting for adults. The main plot doesn't give a good reason for why it's happening in the first place. I went to see this with my family because I like to support original IPs, but it's shocking that this movie made it to theaters in this form. Just like all Imaginary Friends, this movie will fade from pop culture existence. 2 out of 5. Yeah, I mean, Imaginary Friends, like a banana who likes to exercise and a pink crocodile. Like, it's just not enough thought went into this movie for me. My number 82 shows some originality and likes to play in the nostalgia field of like the lost movies that we had in the 80s, like your Gremlins, like your kind of creature feature, Frankie Freako. This had me super hyped when I saw the trailer for it. It's directed by the same person who directed Psycho Gorman, and that movie I absolutely loved. He's got a very mixed bag of a filmography. Psycho Gorman, I loved. Leprechaun Returns. I guess I saw Leprechaun Origins. Maybe I didn't see Leprechaun Returns, but any Leprechaun movie, not great by me. The Void, I need to see, but I heard good things about Manborg. I've heard good things about Father's Day. I loved VHS 94. So, yeah, just a very mixed bag. Frankie Freako, I did not like. And I'm trying to read my review here. I watched Psycho Gorman. I knew that whatever this director made next, I wanted to see. Then I discovered that it was going to be made with heavy practical effects and puppetry, so my interest was beyond peaked. While the practical effects are fun and the puppetry still manages to capture some fun feelings of 80s yesteryear, the story here is terrible, and at the end of the day, that's what I mainly come to movies for. I'm still interested to see what the director is going to make next, but man, please sharpen that script up a bit before you start production. A 2 out of 5. My number 81 is a movie that I saw a lot on best of lists in 2024. I had the complete opposite feeling on this movie. I saw the TV Glow. The director also made We're All Going to the World's Fair, which, to be fair, also wasn't my cup of tea. But when I heard that like this movie was kind of based off of like Snick and like watching Are You Afraid of the Dark or that type of like, hey, I'm a kid, but I want something to watch that makes me feel like an adult. That's the vibe that I saw the TV Glow was kind of throwing my way. And I'm like, yeah, I love that stuff. Yes, I need this in my life. Here's my review. It has been a very long time since I have hate watched a film all the way through, but I had to know why people loved this film or have this film as their favorite of the year. I still don't know. This movie has some mesmerizing visuals, but the story is nonsensical garbage. This wasn't for me, but this is exactly why I love the art of film. There is something out there for everyone. 2 out of 5. And I feel like this is for the David Lynch crowd. I've never been a fan of his work. I feel like Blue Velvet is the best case scenario you can get from Lynch. There's also like some like the Straight Story. Like there's some very when he's not trying to play in Crazy Town, he can tell some great stories. Like I saw the TV Glow is trying to be more of an art house film than it is like an actual narrative film, and stuff like that always drives me nuts. But let's go to 76 through 80. My number 80 was a movie I was so hyped to see. I actually went and saw it in theaters. I want to say this is the first movie I saw in 2024 in theaters. Love me some Matthew Vaughn. Matthew Vaughn, director of Kingsman and Kingsman: The Golden Circle and The King's Man. Love that franchise. Love X-Men First Class. Either my second or third favorite X-Men movie. Kick-Ass. One of my favorite non-IP'd superhero movies of all time. Like, this dude was batting 1,000 for me. So I was on board with Argyle. Like, yes, if you're going to make an original piece of entertainment, I'm going to be there. Opening weekend. Here's my review. Have you ever been on a water slide that is so fun for the first 2 or 3 turns, but you get a little sick of all the twists by the end? Yeah, that's Argyle. While there are a couple of fun scenes in here, this is just the equivalent of the mask pulling scene from a Mission Impossible movie as the entire movie. It got to the point of me scoffing at every twist instead of caring about what happened in the movie. Love the directing eye that Matthew Vaughn has, but man, this one was hard to sit through. 2 out of 5. P.S. Bryce Dallas Howard wears a blonde wig in this and looked exactly like Adele. And now I can never unsee this. I have unseen this. Spoilers. But don't watch Argyle. I think it's on Apple. I want to say it's an Apple TV Plus movie. I wish that I would have not wasted my money in theaters and saw it on Apple TV Plus. I saw it on like the biggest screen possible at my local movie theater. And it was just, they ice skate on oil. I no, not for me. Not for me. This next one, Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie. I love me some SpongeBob. I was there I've been a day one SpongeBob fan. Okay, I remember this sucker launching on Nickelodeon. I was at that perfect age. I was like 9, 10. Peak SpongeBob at the beginning of SpongeBob. It was the best. This uses a different type of animation style that I thought I was going to like. I really didn't. Like I said in my review, the animation style on this one wore thin the longer the movie went. Stinks to say that the plot did the same thing. 2.5 out of 5. But we're already at a 2-star territory, people. 2.5, I could be on the fence about. 3 stars and above are where I can actually start recommending movies. 2.5 and below, I can't recommend anybody waste their time to see it. And Saving Bikini Bottoms, again on Netflix, just was not up to snuff for me. Another animated movie here. We have the Garfield movie. It was okay to say the least. In my elementary school days, I loved Garfield. It was the only reason why I would snag the newspaper from my dad on Sundays just so I could get my Garfield fix. But just like newspapers, maybe time has passed Garfield by. This movie just felt like product placement to milk a well-known IP because the plot could have been used by any cast of characters. Does Garfield really need to be in a heist film? I don't think so. 2.5 out of 5. Completely forgettable, but fun enough if you need to kind of waste time with your kids for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Here is one. Number 77. Ricky Stenicki, the Fairley Brothers. Oh, how the Fairley have fallen. Fairley Brothers, become brothers again. Start making movies together again, okay? You made bangers. Dumb and Dumber. Me, Myself, and Irene. There's Something About Mary. All of those movies. Absolute classics. Kingpin, I have wanted to rewatch for the longest time. I need to do that. Fever Pitch, I had a good time with. I'm a big Boston Red Sox fan. That might have had something to do with it. But Green Book, you tried to be artsy. You won Best Picture. Good for you. You did something with your life without your brother. You've proven yourself, okay? Go back to joining forces, because when you try to do the same shtick that you did with Dumb and Dumber and Me, Myself, and Irene, Ricky Stenicki just wasn't it. To be fair to this movie, Peter Fairley has been making movies like this for decades. Some of them are remembered fondly, like Dumb and Dumber and There's Something About Mary. But The majority of his filmography is more like Ricky Stenicki, a one-note joke beaten down to the ground. While I did have a few chuckles here, this is a pretty forgettable comedy that just makes me want to watch Kingpin again. Hopefully that one holds up to a rewatch. I still need to watch it. 2.5 out of 5. But let's go to number 76, and that is Orion and the Dark. I don't even remember. I want to say this was another Netflix movie. Do you see a trend here? A lot of like straight to streaming movies are going straight to streaming for a reason. The animation style at the beginning really had my attention for this DreamWorks film. Then the dark character is introduced and the movie becomes engulfed in mediocrity. It mixes elements of Inside Out and just feels so generic. This movie almost got out of its own way, but tripped so bad in the third act that I can't recommend it to most. The final few minutes are cute, but couldn't save this mixed bag of a movie. 2.5 out of 5. And honestly, I don't remember anything about this movie. And I watched it less than a year ago. But let's get to 71 through 75. And 75 breaks my freaking heart. It's Unfrosted. Love me some Jerry Seinfeld. Love me a good spoof film. This movie was just a very mixed bag of sorts. While the onslaught we have had recently of IP movies, your Airs, your Flamin' Hots, I assumed that we were going to get a similar version, but through the mind of Seinfeld. What we got instead was a satire on consumerism with a 1960s filter thrown on top. While there were a couple of funny moments, there's a funeral scene that I enjoyed in its stupidness. There were more misses than hits with Unfrosted for me. While I appreciate seeing a different take on this genre, not much worked here for me. 2.5 out of 5. P.S. I almost had my whole review saying it's not great because there's a lot of like Kellogg's versus whoever else is in this movie, Post or whatever the crap it is. I don't know. What else has Jerry Seinfeld directed? A Colin Quinn Netflix stand-up special. 2 Colin Quinns. Wow. And then Unfrosted. That's crazy. For technically a first-time director, I guess not a terrible outing, but maybe learn from this one if you're going to go on, Jerry. Again, Jerry, you have all the money in the world. You have nothing to prove. So it's just strange that you wanted to do this with this type of movie. Applaud the effort. Just, it was a mixed bag of a movie. Next up, another mixed bag from a director that I really like. Jackpot. Directed by Paul frickin' Feig. Directed Bridesmaids, which I love. Spy, I think, was great. A Simple Favor is so good. I want to say they're making a second one of that soon. Yeah, Simple Favor 2. I want to say coming out this year. The Heat was also super solid. You Were the Camp Counselor in Heavyweights, one of my favorite movies growing up. Jackpot was just okay. While the premise of Jackpot sounds like a fun time, the final execution is too one-dimensional to be elevated to anything memorable. Everything here from the performance to the plot is just meh. 2.5 out of 5. P.S. More like lack plot. Get it? Instead of jackpot, lack plot. P.P.S. When Paul Feig popped up in the credits as the director, I was really bummed out. Hopefully, he can pull another hit out of his hat soon. That's got to be with A Simple Favor, too. Number 73, a movie I was super excited to check out, but heard nothing but terrible things about and decided not to watch it in theaters. Joker, Folie, The first movie I thought was wonderful. Not wonderful. It's not a wonderful watch. It's I appreciated the movie. I gave it a 4 out of 5, the original one. But it's a movie that I didn't crave to rewatch anytime soon. Joker Folie, I don't know if I'm ever going to watch again. There's something to be said about making a sequel to a film that was such a phenomenon and having the balls to really take some risks and put a microscope to why the first film was so successful. While I quite like the idea of that concept on paper, this film overall just didn't work for me. A heavy reason for this are all the musical interludes. If they felt necessary to the story, I wouldn't mind them at all. But the majority of these pieces just drag that runtime out and add nothing to the actual story. Overall, it's a swing and a miss of a movie, but I appreciate them swinging for the fences. 2.5 Joker cards out of 5. If the music tied into the movie better, I would appreciate what it's doing and I would like that decision. But to me, I felt like it took an idea of a movie that was 75 minutes long and stretched it out to 2 hours and 20 minutes or however long this movie is. 138 minutes. I don't know. I wanted a lot from this movie, and I didn't get a lot. I didn't even hate the ending. Like, I know a lot of people hated this movie for what Arthur Fleck turned into. I was okay with that decision. I just didn't like the execution of the film as a whole. Number 72. I feel like a lot of people are not going to like to see it this low on the list, but Alien Romulus. I don't know if I was in a bad mood when I saw it, but there were a lot of decisions in this movie I did not like. And Fede Alvarez, my God, he directed Don't Breathe, one of the best original horror movies, I would say, in the 2000s, like from 2000 onward. I adore Don't Breathe. I really appreciated what he did with the Don't or with Evil Dead remake, that 2013 Evil Dead. Loved that movie. So when I heard he was coming on to Alien, I got excited. This movie should have been named Aliens the Ride the Movie. I could go on for a very long time why I didn't like this movie, but I feel like I just experienced a VR video game and was not impressed with the thrills. This was a shill of a movie and the franchise that it was spawned from. Say what you will about Prometheus and Alien Covenant, but at least those movies were trying to tell a unique story. Fetty made an amazing reboot with the Evil Dead franchise, but I'm hoping that this reboot stays lost in space. 2 out of 5. And I can already feel myself wanting to give this a rewatch. I know I'm going to rewatch it once his sequel to Alien Romulus comes out. I'm just hoping that it has more fleshed out characters, more of a story instead of more of a thrill ride than Alien Romulus had. Number 71, Despicable Me 4. I don't know if we need to read the review here. It's very run-of-the-mill Minions. Wolf, I had a hard time getting through this one. It felt like a lot of ideas forcefully crammed into a feature film. Did we really need superhero Minions? I think not. 2.5 out of 5. That's all I need to say about that. They're going to keep on making Minions movies because Despicable Me 4 almost made $1 billion at the box office. It was like $980 million or something like that. Minions are going to Minion, and I want to say that there's another Minion spinoff coming out in 2025, and it'll be here, and I will go to see it because my kids, they love them Minions. Number 70, yes, I did like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 more than Alien Romulus and Joker Folie à Deux. What do you want me to say? The first 3-star movie in the batch, folks. I did not like the first Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. It's nice to see that the success of the first film made the second one better on pretty much every level. While this isn't a top-tier slasher franchise, yet, in parentheses, there's a lot of promise with this second installment, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I am now looking to see part 3. 3 stars out of 5. There's going to be a whole Poohniverse with evil Bambi and God, a couple Peter Pan's Nightmare Island or whatever the hell it's called. Like, it's definitely out of control what whoever's making these movies is doing. But Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 was such an improvement from the first. I am semi excited to see what else is coming down the pipeline. Number 69. Very apropos. The 4:30 movie. Did not even plan to do that with Kevin Smith and the 69s of it all. Here we go. The movies have always felt like a special experience for me, and Kevin Smith must feel the same way. He made a movie based on his experiences going to the movies as a teenager. At times, this works out well and feels like your average run-of-the-mill coming-of-age flick. Other times, it feels like Smith is flying a bit too close to the sun with how personal this film is to him. You can feel that Kevin loved making this movie, but I wish that he would have taken himself out of it a little bit, since the character really isn't him. Either go all the way or pump the brakes a bit. 3 out of 5. Sometimes this felt like Kevin Smith jerking himself off. And like, yeah, I guess I'll spoil the ending, the after credits scene of the movie, because it has nothing to do with the actual movie. It has the main character sitting on a park bench, talking with himself, hyping himself up for putting in a job application to Quickstop. I don't know. It felt like, okay, Kevin, we get it. We get it. we love the View Askew universe, and you also love it, but it just, I don't know. The magic sauce was not mixed into the 430 movie as much as I wish it was. Let's move on. Number 68, Destroy All Neighbors, a Shudder original film. I had a decent amount of fun here. It's a great concept that unfortunately loses steam the longer it goes on, but for me, there's enough fun practical effects in here to give this movie a recommendation. 3 out of 5 stars. Stars Jonah Ray, also stars Alex Winter as like this creature right here. Very prosthetic, makeup to death. You would not know this was Alex Winter if it didn't say so in the credits. Um, it's fun enough. It kind of reminds me of like almost like an Evil Dead Rise, like not to the level of Evil Dead Rise, but it's in an apartment complex and a guy starts to lose his mind within that apartment complex. It's interesting. You could do much worse. Number 67, I have the Mean Girls remake. I don't mind musicals, but in order to pull off a great one, the majority of the songs have to work. Unfortunately for Mean Girls, it's more of a 25-75 split for me. The plot still holds up, but I'm going to stick with the original. 3 out of 5. I'm always going to stick with the original. I really like that OG Tina Fey movie. This one just felt like it for a new generation, and you know what? It's not my generation, okay? Let me have my 03 version. Number 66, we got Twisters. Really wanted to love this movie. The first Twister has a very soft spot in my heart. One of the 10 movies that were filmed in my home state of Iowa. And I don't know, Twisters to me just didn't capture that same magic. I didn't really feel it, so I'm not going to chase it. The score was trying to make this film feel epic, but the rest of the movie was so generic. But things did pick up in the third act, and that was by far the strongest part of the film for me. 3 out of 5 stars. Let's go to number 65 now. Is this a movie? It should have been. It should have been a 3-hour movie, but instead it was a 6-hour long limited series event on Paramount Plus. We got Knuckles. So these shows aren't made for my demographic of 30-somethings, but I can't help but want to root for this IP because I grew up loving to play Sonic the Hedgehog, or Sonic and Knuckles on the Sega Genesis, and a whole bunch of the Sonic games. This show is more or less the same mindless children's fare there, but there was enough jokes that got me to chuckle that I can recommend it to watch it with your family like I did. 3 out of 5. Again, another rewatch of Kingpin because there's a lot of bowling in this. Yes, that's right. This must be a sign I need to rewatch Kingpin. I bought the Blu-ray fairly recently, right here. Look at the shininess of Kingpin on Blu-ray. It looks great. It looks glorious. I need to watch it already, dang it. I'm not even going to keep it in the collection. I'm going to keep it on the table. It's on the table now. It's going to be watched. Stay tuned for it on an upcoming movie log. But let's continue to go down the list. We have number 64. Again, another movie that a lot of people loved. I thought was okay. Civil War by Alex Garland. Alex Garland as a director is a very mixed bag for me. Ex Machina, I adored with a passion. Annihilation, I think I liked a little bit more than Ex Machina. I loved the messaging that movie had. Men, I completely hated. It's very similar to the film Mother by Darren Aronofsky, and I hated that movie too. This one's better than Mother to me, but it's still like that artsy David Lynch playground that they're playing in that I'm just not a fan of. Civil War is definitely in between both of those. Not really art housey, but not on the same level of Ex Machina and Annihilation. For all the major action moments here, a lot of the character development felt hollow to me, and besides one character's death, I really didn't feel much throughout this film. There were some great moments and scenes, but the movie as a whole fell flat. A 3 out of 5, and that's all I gotta say about that. Number 63, another movie I was looking so forward to. The Fall Guy. I thought outrun its runtime by like half an hour. It ran out of steam faster than what I wanted it to. I'm such a huge proponent for practical effects. Seeing something physically happening with minimal CGI makes the realism enhance the thrill to maximum effect. Look at me writing that sentence. Making a movie with the stunts as the main selling factor sounds like a dream come true for me. But it's unfortunate that the script didn't have as much focus as the stunts performed. This movie splits itself into two completely different films. One is a murder mystery tale, and the other is a romantic comedy. Threading both of these completely different vibes of a film together is some amazing. What? Threading both of these completely different vibes of a film is some amazing action set pieces. Oh, Jesus, Jacob. This is the main reason why I am recommending this film, because David Leitch is a master of capturing action. 3 out of 5 stars. P.S. The 4K transfer looks great, and the fact that both the theatrical and extended cut have their own individual 4K discs is a nice touch, and I would love to see more releases have. One thing that I started to do the second half of 2024 is that every time I watch a movie on physical media, I will tell you that I watched it on physical media and give a little tidbit on that. So if you're a fan of this channel and aren't following me on Letterboxd, I would highly, highly recommend it. Number 62, we have the Roadhouse remake. I didn't hate this movie. I know a lot of people did hate it. I love me some Doug Liman, though. Love me some Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Love me. Ooh, excuse me. American Made, I thought was a very, very fun time. Jumper was okay. Swingers is okay. Instigators, you will see on this list. Edge of Tomorrow, an absolute blast. But for Roadhouse itself, this has just enough dumb fun moments to outweigh the dumb to barely give this recommendation. But wow, is it dumb. 3 out of 5 stars. P.S. The White Claws in my systems definitely helped me get on board with the Looney Tunes antics in the third act. P.P.S. Does this mean I finally need to watch the original? Yes, that is true. I have seen the Roadhouse remake, and I have not seen the original Roadhouse, even though I have the original Roadhouse on Blu-ray. Don't know why I didn't watch it before I watched the remake. But you know what? Maybe that just gives me a reason to watch it, or maybe it'll just stay in my collection unwatched for a while. Next one up, Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, the second of the double bill I saw at the drive-in last year. For the first time in this MonsterVerse batch of movies, I actually wanted to see more of the humans. All of the monkeying around with this installment started to feel a tad bit stale, but the combination of David Tyree Henry and Dan Stevens was a nice breath of fresh air for this franchise. This is the first time I'm saying this since Kong Skull Island, but I'm looking forward to another sequel in this franchise. 3 out of 5 stars. Let's go on to number 60. You can kind of peek and see which ones are up. There might be 2 here that people aren't going to like being this low on the list. Number 60 is a movie, but it was kind of shot for TikTok. It's very interesting. There's a lot to this review, and I'll just go through it. I'm always interested in how cinema changes to go along with modern innovations. There's always a new way popping up to watch movies, whether it's the invention of 3D technology in the 50s and then again in the 2000s, IMAX theaters, VR headsets, and so much more. Last year, the movie Mean Girls was broken up into small segments to stream on TikTok, and that idea has always was fascinating to me. Now in 2024, there is a movie made exclusively to watch on TikTok, and the experience was unique to say the least. Broken up into 45 parts, or a total of 70 minutes. It's not hard to see this movie as a lot of tiny skits or ideas thrown together to make a whole idea take shape. Every scroll I made had me looking at the likes of that particular part gathered. Some made sense because it looked like the video could stand on its own and break out to garner attention. Some didn't gather the likes that I felt it deserved around the same attention as other parts. All in all, Carol and Gray worked for me more than it didn't, and it's an experience I won't soon forget. I hope to see more filmmakers see this idea and run with it, because it's a nice change of pace to scroll on an app to continue a story instead of hopping from idea to idea. 3 out of 5. I do still think about Carol and Gray, but I don't think of it as a whole. I do think of the experience from time to time, but there are a couple skits that really stick out in my mind, and it's still a very unique way to watch a movie, and I do recommend finding that on TikTok while TikTok is still a thing. Number 59, Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. While this Lega sequel definitely leans on the original hard with multiple callbacks, there's enough original content and great action for a Netflix film to recommend this movie a 3 out of 5. P.S. Although I have to say, the first 15 minutes has some of the worst cinematography for an action scene that I've seen in a hot minute. This movie was okay. I want to say Mark Malloy is not really directed. Yeah, this is his first movie, more or less. The Underdogs from 2019 was his first movie. Never heard of that movie. For this being more or less your first movie in a very, very long time, to say the least, I didn't think it was too bad. Number 58, In a Violent Nature. Wanted to love this film so much. My only review, In Some Quiet Nature. 3 out of 5 stars. The main reason why it's so low on this list for me, I hated the ending. I really hated the ending. It felt like it was from a completely different movie trying to have some higher meaning to what you watched, even though it didn't really make sense or connect to that movie at all. There were some innovative kills to this. I really liked having the perspective of the killer for the majority of the film. It just kind of wore out its welcome too fast for me. How long is this movie? 94 minutes. I would say minute 70, 75 is where I'm like, okay, what else is going to happen here? And if the movie would have stuck the landing, I probably would have given it a half-star tick, but instead it lost that because ending was so bad. Number 57, VHS Beyond. Love the whole franchise. I'm a big fan of this franchise, but alien content has really not been my subgenre of choice. While I enjoyed most of these shorts, the sci-fi elements just felt like they were holding the majority of these stories back instead of elevating it. 3 out of 5. To me, VHS Beyond was very mid-tier VHS franchise for me, but it does so well for Shudder. We're gonna get a new installment every year, and I'm always excited to pop them in and watch them. I guess not pop them in, press the play button and watch them. Number 56, The Substance. Yes, Best Picture nominated, The Substance. How crazy is that? I'll just read everything that I have here, and then I can kind of break down a little bit more if I don't answer my thoughts. This movie had its hooks in me for the majority of the runtime. And then the last 30 minutes happens and completely swung for the fence hard with every single allegory and nuance that was layered out beautifully beforehand into this complete parody of itself. What was once a great high point into the body horror genre turned into a Tim and Eric sketch, which is such a shame because there are so many great elements to this film. Demi Moore is insanely vulnerable in this, and I loved seeing her take a role like this. Dennis Quaid is a caricature of a business exec in all of the best ways. As a fan of practical effects, I loved everything that I was seeing. The cinematography was so abrasive and in your face, and seeing it on a movie screen just made you feel like a fly on the wall in all the right ways. There was enough prior to this e-break at the end to at least recommend it for lovers of the genre to go and see it. But man, it's been a few years since an ending has let me down like The Substance did. 3 out of 5. I don't really want to go into spoilers all that much, but that last act in front of a crowd of people, and then what happened at the very end with something crawling onto something else, it was just like, God. Literally slapping you in the face with its messaging, and I hated it. I hated the ending so much. I still do. But yet I bought the movie on 4K, and I do want to rewatch it before the Oscars because there's so much that I loved about the movie. That last 30 minutes knocked off an entire star, personally for me, from that movie. And it sucks to say because I really did enjoy the majority of it. Number 55, Deadpool and Wolverine. While this movie had a lot of fun bits bukkakied throughout, the main plot for me wasn't working and really made this movie not work as a whole. In fact, the plot is just slap chopped together and shines a light at the superhero movie plot structure in not the kindest way. It doesn't matter if you are making a joke out of your MacGuffin, it's still a pivotal linchpin towards the end of the film. While seeing all the cameos pop up was fun, it's not going to be as fun on a second watch. I think that 3 movies into his own franchise, Deadpool, just doesn't work for me. But I do hope to see him pop up as a supporting character down the road. A sprinkle of Deadpool will be better than having him as the main course. 3 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I've never really been a big fan of any of the Deadpool movies, and I think they're all 3-star material for me. Number 54, Sasquatch Sunset. What a weird film this is, folks. This generation's version of Quest for Fire, for better or worse. Inspired by nature documentaries, I couldn't help but be engaged by this dialogue-free film. I feel like if I was on acid, I would be singing this movie's praises as revolutionary. But as is, it's enjoyably hypnotic to follow this family of Sasquatches. 3.5 out of 5. P.S. The Umbrella box set for this release is covered in fur, and I absolutely love it. Yes, one of my favorite box sets to come out this year was of Sasquatch Sunset, just because of the incredibly unique packaging for it. I've done videos on the channel for it. Go back and look. They're great. It's great. Next up, Agatha All Along. I throw in some limited series in here as well. If you love escape rooms and witchcraft, then this show is for you. Me, I think they're just okay. 3 out of 5 stars. Yeah, Agatha was fine. There's gonna be a season 2. Whatever. This is like the big documentary push, like multi-part documentary movies. Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV. I grew up watching all that and the Amanda Show, so hearing how much of a mess it was behind the scenes was disheartening to hear. But this docuseries was also a bit of a disjointed mess, trying to thread together as many bits and pieces of Nickelodeon disgruntled hearsay as they could. I feel like a better, more focused telling of both the harassment and the assault could have been split into 2 completely different shows. But other than that, if you grew up watching these shows like I did, you might want to give this a watch. 3.5 out of 5 stars. A lot of good tidbits to be had here, just as a whole, very incoherent at times. Next up, Movie Pass, Movie Crash. I had a Movie Pass card back in its heyday, and it was a glorious time to go to any movie you wanted to for $10 a month. That is the only reason why I saw so many good or bad movies. I still have a Vietnam flashback about seeing the hurricane heist in theaters. The only reason I did is because I had Movie Pass. This doc does a solid job going over the phenomenon while also enlightening me on the history of the company. 3.5 out of 5 stars. But let's go to number 50, folks. Almost halfway done. Ghostbusters, Frozen, Empire. While the franchise might be getting a little bit long in the tooth with its obligatory callbacks to previous films, the core concept is still a strong one. I'm hoping that with the next installment that they don't have to feel the need to play to our nostalgia and instead focus on the new generation. 3.5 out of 5. P.S. Putting a ghost trap on a drone is pretty genius, and that's absolutely the case. This movie at times kind of felt like cosplay instead of an actual Ghostbusters installment. Oh my god, look at the freaking slime ooze coming from the Letterboxd logo. Did not notice that before. I don't think that was on the app. Weird. I don't know if there's gonna be another Ghostbusters film. I'm just hoping they put a little bit more time and care into that one. Number 49, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Guy Ritchie, guys. A huge mixed bag of a filmography for me. The Gentleman, I really enjoyed his earlier stuff, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch. Also had a great time with. Sherlock Holmes wasn't really my bag. Man from Uncle wasn't really for me. King Arthur was terrible. Rock and Rolla was okay. Just, yeah, kind of all over the board. Ungentlemanly Warfare was at least fun to watch. Guy Ritchie's Inglourious Bastards. That title has a better ring than this title that scared a lot of people away from seeing this film in theaters. Which is a shame because this was a solid action movie about a ragtag group of soldiers who killed a lot of Nazis on screen and had a damn good time doing it. The action was brutal yet cartoonish, which is a combination I love. 3.5 out of 5 stars. P.S. The 4K has a great making of 30-minute mini doc, and the transfer looks nice and crispy. Number 48, we have the documentary Bratz. Just like the director is trying to find meaning in a period of his life, we as an audience are also reminiscing over a certain period in time and a small group of movies that have become cemented in pop culture history. This is almost like an equivalent of a high school reunion movie, just talking about the good old days, and I had an enjoyable enough time being a fly on a wall. 3.5 out of 5. This is about one of the kids from the Brat Pack, as the director, Andrew McCarthy, talking to the rest of the Brat Pack, who was in The Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, all those movies. If you liked those, I think this is worth a watch. There's enough fun juice to squeeze from all of the Brat Pack kind of getting back together one by one. Number 47, Kung Fu Panda 4, not Kung Fu. We don't want Kung Fu. While this movie takes about a third of its runtime to really find its footing, once it does, it really flows. What really grabbed my attention in this were its fighting sequences, because they pulled from the positives from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish and did some innovative things with the camera movements. If you're a fan of the franchise, or if you haven't seen them in some time, then I think you should give this Kung Fu flick a shot. 3.5 out of 5. P.S. Why does every animated movie nowadays have to have Aquafina? Agreed. I feel like there's a lot of animated movies with Jack Black and Aquafina, and we get it. They have distinct voices, but they're distinct, and we know that it's them every time they're in there. Number 46, The First Omen. Man, this movie is really a tale of two halves. The first half is so well done, and you are fascinated in solving the mystery that is unwinding. The second half, once the mystery is solved, just unravels into a generic horror film, which is a shame because all throughout The First Omen are some gorgeously captured cinematography, and for me is the main reason to see this film. I'm still going to slightly recommend it, but man, I was rooting for this film, and it really just let me down a bit. 3 out of 5. P.S. It should be said that I am not a fan of the Omen franchise. This is the second best entry in the franchise, and that is true. I watched all of those movies. I don't even remember why, but the remake's terrible. The first movie is even just okay. Second one is a bore. Third one has Sam Neill as like a presidential candidate. Not great. Yeah. PPS. Looks like the director of this also made Brand New Cherry Flavor. I need to finally check out that Netflix flick. And yeah, the best thing about this movie was by far the cinematography. I think that's the only other thing that I really want to see from that director. Brand New Cherry Flavor. Still haven't watched it yet. Number 45. We have Moana number 2. So this definitely feels like a project that was made for Disney Plus, and for the first 2/3, I was really subdued with boredom from what I was watching. A lot of the same beats are mirrored over from the original, but then their third act happens, and I can now see why this got a theatrical release, and I'm glad that I paid an insane amount of money to have my family afford watching in theaters. While the mid-credit scene is very reminiscent of another popular Marvel villain, Disney was able to gather some of that magic again that makes them an entertainment juggernaut. 3.5 out of 5. I still think about that third act. And as a whole family going to watch that movie, it was fun. And that's what you kind of want at the end of the day when you're watching movies, is just to have a good time. And the third act gave me that fun ride. And yeah, can recommend it because of that. Number 44, another Disney venture, Dream Productions. This was a Disney Plus show. This is a fun enough side quest in the Inside Out world. There are times where it seems a little unfocused, and the show just slap chops an epilogue in the final 5 minutes that feels so forced. But my family and I did enjoy every episode. And this literally, I want to say, is 4 episodes long. Like, this is just a movie. This is 2 hours long. I guess let's double check that. 109 minutes long, not even 2 hours. This is a movie that they just chopped into 4 different episodes. So if you like Inside Out, I would recommend Dream Productions. Number 43, Susanna, the Queen of Black Magic. I always love finding a documentary that I know nothing about and love jumping into said rabbit hole and the essence of Susanna. Okay, I felt like that should have been 2 sentences. At least, okay, never mind. learning about her filmography is entertaining enough, but what happens to her in her later years is where you really get some goods that I personally wasn't expecting. 3.5 out of 5. P.S. This is also part of the All the Hauntsby Hours Volume 2 box set from Severin. Queen of Black Magic, Miss Susanna is. And yeah, just her filmography, knowing nothing about her before this made me want to watch some movies that starred her. But like the soap opera part of like the last 10 years of her life is just kind of sad but fascinating to learn about. Interesting stuff. But let's go to number 42. It says 2023, but this came out in 2024. Sometimes I don't go off of what Letterboxd has as the date because this was played in like at Fantastic Fest the year before, just like the studio or the festival circuit, which I don't really count. Here's Frogman. Found footage can be leaned on as a crutch to scare the audience by not showing anything happening because they are dealing with running away from the scene they are witnessing. While this happens in Frogman, it also shows a lot of great character relationships before the S hits the fan. If you can make me care about the characters, their fate and fight for survival becomes something that I care more about. Plus, the titular Frogman rocks. 3.5 out of 5. Found footage movies are very hit or miss for me, and Frogman definitely surprised me in that department. And the Terror Vision Blu-ray that came out, it has a lot of great extras on there. Recommend that Blu-ray for sure. Number 41, Lisa Frankenstein. This movie feels ripped right out of the 80s in both its setting and its plot. I'm honestly shocked that a major studio would greenlight a movie like this. It has Heather's vibes heavily flowing through its veins, and that was the most shocking part for me. I'm a big fan of that film and always thought that modern Hollywood would not be able to make this movie today. While Lisa Frankenstein doesn't go fully Heather's, it definitely dips its toe in that pool, and I enjoyed my time in those cool waters. 3.5 out of 5. Yeah, just Juno, or not Juno, who's the writer's name? That's driving me crazy. Diablo Cody, my God. Diablo Cody vibes are running rampant in here. Like, she has a very distinct writing style. It's all over here, but every now and again, I like to have that voice witnessed by my eyeballs. And I had a fun time with Lisa Frankenstein. Number 40. We got Long Legs, baby. Osgood Perkins. Cannot wait to see The Monkey when that comes out this year. I was invited to a screening in Los Angeles, but I live in the Midwest. Contemplated paying $1,000 to fly out and get hotel fare just to go to this private screening because it was going to be at a cemetery. It was going to have a themed dinner with it. Like, it sounded glorious. And the movie to me looks right up my alley. Long Legs was fun. This movie is a ride. At some points, it's a slow ride. Other times, it builds tension masterfully. There are even a couple of points that played like a spoof of serial killer movies. And even though it might sound like a mess of a film, for me, it all wraps itself up in a nice bow in the last 10 minutes. It definitely didn't end up being in the horror subgenre that I thought that it was going, but I'm not upset with what I watched. 3.5 out of 5. P.S. Nicolas Cage is great as Long Legs. One scene and the next, he over cages and nearly takes the movie off the tracks. 1,000% agree with that. Really want to rewatch Long Legs. I especially before The Monkey comes out, I really want to rewatch Long Legs. One movie I liked better than Long Legs: Bad Boys Ride or Die. The older I get, the more and more I enjoy dumb action movies like this. It's fun to go back and have a 2-hour block of fun with some characters that you haven't seen in a while. This isn't anything that revolutionary, but if the formula ain't broke, don't fix it. Keep on making Bad Boys movies for life, and I'll be there to watch them. 3.5 out of 5 stars. P.S. Saw this in theaters on Father's Day with my dad and little brother. Everyone had a blast with it. Every year I try to drag my dad and brother to a movie, and it's got to be a dumb action movie. I mean, sometimes it's a great action movie like Top Gun Maverick. Sometimes it's a dumb, fun flick like Bad Boys Ride or Die. But there's usually one good, like, just family bro movie that you can go and see with the boys and the fam. And Bad Boys was a fun one to watch. Next up on the list, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I thought that with the end of War for the Planet of the Apes, we were setting a stamp on a new ape's arrival. It tied what? I thought that with the end of War for the Planet of the Apes, we were setting a stamp on the. Oh God, that was terrible, Jacob. It tied a nice bow on the three films, and honestly, I was okay with leaving the series. Thankfully, though, this new entry both starts us down a new path for the franchise to go down, while also not forgetting what came before. 3.5 out of 5. So I write a review every day on the Letterboxd app. Sometimes I don't put as much thought as what I should in some of the verbiage in here, but 3.5 out of 5 for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, way higher than I thought I was going to give it before going in, because I really like the first three of like the rebooted Kingdom movies or the Planet of the Apes movies, and Kingdom is a good successor to that franchise for sure. Number 37, and I might flip-flop these a little bit later. Beetlejuice. For me, this was definitely a tale of two halves. The first half felt like it was trying to figure out what a Beetlejuice sequel should be. The second half let everything loose, including the juice, and gave us some imaginative imagery that made the original so popular. I'm happy to report that the juice is well worth the squeeze the second time around. 3.5 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I thought everything in like the afterlife portion really got things back on track, because there's a lot of dominoes being stacked here. And sometimes when you push those dominoes over, it doesn't really feel like the chains connect as much as they should on some subplots. But overall, I did have a fun time with Beetlejuice. Number 36, Maxine. Glad to see that the third installment of the X trilogy didn't completely mess the bed, but this is the weakest installment thanks to a third act that really felt unfocused, to put it nicely. Loved the Giallo-inspired killings and the focus on the business behind Hollywood, but this movie just doesn't know how to wrap things up nicely, and instead has a fever dream of a final 30 minutes that will annoy instead of entertain most audiences. Still loved most of this film, and the performances throughout were a blast to watch. 3.5 out of 5. Yeah, the more I'm watching Ty West's catalog, the more I feel like I'm either gonna totally love the movie, like I did with Pearl, or I'm just gonna think the movie's okay, like I did with Maxine, like I did with X, like I did with House of the Devil. It's just, yeah, I think Pearl might be an oddity, which I'm kind of bummed about, because I really enjoyed Pearl. Next up, speaking of a brother splitting up, Josh Safdie, Alone Safdie, directed Adam Sandler, Love You. While the jokes are more or less solid, the format that starts from the beginning is just odd tonally. If it were just isolated to the beginning and end, it would have been easier to deal with, but there are some awkward references throughout the actual stand-up set, and it just ends up feeling like a distraction rather than elevated storytelling. But I could hear new Sandler songs every year and would love to do so. 3.5 out of 5. P.S. Why was it so hard to find on Netflix? I watch a lot of Sandler stuff on this platform, so it feels like a burial job, and I'm not quite sure why. I like Adam Sandler's stand-up. I have ever since I was in elementary school, and I'd love to see that he's still doing it to this day. Good stuff. Number 34, maybe my biggest surprise of the year. Big City Greens, the movie, Spacecation. It is rare that a kid's cartoon ends up being watchable for the whole family, but the trifecta of Bluey, Amphibia, and Big City Greens are great, and I can recommend to any family. So when there was a Big City Greens movie randomly on Disney Plus, the fam had a family movie night. This movie is both great for fans of the series and a great introduction point for the series for newbies. There are numerous funny moments, but what makes this special is the emotional sequence in the third act that elevates this from a filler movie to one that I can recommend wholeheartedly. And yes, there's so much emotion and like family bonding in the last 20 minutes that I was shocked that I was seeing this in a Big City Greens cartoon. But if you're a fan of the show, please check out the movie. And then on the other side of the spectrum, number 33, Terrifier 3. I have a soft spot in my heart for this franchise, I gotta say. This third installment does a great job blending the tones of the first film's grindhouse brutality with the second's lore gore showcase. Also, all of the complaints I had on Terrifier 2's inability of visiting an editing room are out the window here, and it turns out that Damien Leone can, in fact, craft up a pretty well told narrative without needing to drag scenes out. 3.5 out of 5. P.S. I'm very happy to add this to my holiday horror collection. Yes. I'm kind of shocked that more of like the home video market aspects of this movie when it got released on VHS and 4K don't really showcase Art off in his Santa suit. Hopefully next Christmas it will, and we'll just have another reason to go and buy this movie again. I have two different versions of this movie already, a 4K and a VHS. But if there is more Art in Santa suit on like a variant slipcovers, I will probably pick those up. Next up, a documentary, sports documentary, Untold, The Murder of Air McNair. How did I not know about Steve McNair being murdered? I love these Untold hour-long docs on Netflix, and this one is no different. Sure, it's a little disjointed with half of it focusing on McNair's career and the other focusing on the crime itself, but I thought that both stories were worth telling. The first 4 people, 4 out of 5. So now, all of these should be 4 out of 5 movies, which I will recommend. Number, like, my ranking list, 3 is a like, 3.5 is really like, 4 is love, 4.5 is really love, 5 I think is absolutely perfect. So here are all the movies that I love this year. Next up, How to Rob a Bank. Man, how have I never heard of this story before, and how is this story not an actual movie yet? Hopefully this doc will get the ball rolling in Hollywood to make this a reality, because this was a fun story to see unfold. The dude lives in like a giant treehouse that he made himself, and he just robs banks for years and never really gets caught. Like this movie is crazy, and if you have Netflix, I would recommend this movie wholeheartedly. A great, great documentary. Number 30, Saturday Night. I loved Saturday Night ever since I was a kid. So when I heard that Jason Reitman was making a movie about the making of the very first episode, I was all the way in. While this movie did a solid job setting up plot dominoes to fall down later, I really didn't fall in love with this movie like I really wanted to. It's entertaining for sure, but this movie didn't feel as special as the events that they were portraying. 3.5 out of 5. And in fact, I think I am going. Can I switch this on the fly? I don't know if I can or not. Yeah, I can't. I'll do that later. But Saturday Night should be right above Terrifier 3. I would say Air McNair and How to Rob a Bank should be above Saturday Night. Number 29, Blink Twice. Note to self, never go to a billionaire's private island. This definitely makes me excited to see where Zoe Kravitz goes from here as a director. Similarities can be made to Jordan Peele and Get Out, as this feels like it's touching upon different issues in a similar vein. 3.5 out of 5 stars. Had a very fun time with this movie. But yeah, instead of focusing on like racial elements, it talks about like sexist overtones. And it was good. It just felt like it might have been treading a little bit of water that we've seen done better prior. So I liked the movie. Didn't completely fall in love with it like I wanted to. Next up, we have The Bike Riders. I love it when a film can capture a moment in time so well, and The Bike Riders not only does this in spades, but also manages to craft a hangout movie with relationships akin to Dazed and Confused, The Outsiders, and Almost Famous. Nothing revolutionary here, but very solid storytelling and performances. 3.5 out of 5. And P.S. I need more burnout Michael Shannon in my life. I just need more Michael Shannon in my life, period. He is such a great character actor, and anytime he is on screen, my life gets a little bit better. Like a smile definitely gets put on my face. Next up, we have the horror film Abigail. What a bloody good time this ended up being. All of the practical effects made me giddy to see with all, and the way the plot starts to unfold in the third act had me smiling a lot as well. Kind of slow starting, but once the reveal that the movie marketed itself around finally occurred, you were off to the races. 3.5 out of 5. Yes, that little girl does some very menacing things. Again, I don't want to spoil anything for you. I'm just kind of recommending movies to you. And I hope you like the way that I'm kind of talking through them very vaguely, and you know what I like and what I don't like. Next up, we have Snack Shack. I could binge coming of age movies all day. That feeling you get reminiscing about your adolescence while you watch a fictional narrative take place is one hell of a drug. Snack Shack is another solid installment into the genre. It also doesn't hurt that this takes place close to my neck of the woods in the Midwest. If you enjoy the likes of The Edge of 17 and The Way Way Back, this film throws off those same vibes. 3.5 out of 5. P.S. I thought I was going to hate this movie watching the first 5 minutes, so if you have the same feeling, stick with this one. Because I don't know about you, I usually give myself a 15-minute rule. If I watch the movie and I'm still not into it, like at all, 15 minutes in, I give myself the ability to tap and watch something else. But that rarely happens. Usually when I start a movie, I intend to finish it, but if I'm really hating the movie, I will just not watch it. But now, it's time to crack into the top 25 people. And number 25. Again, I've seen a lot of people absolutely hate this movie. In my friend group, a lot of 2s, a lot of 2.5s, a lot of 3s. I guess I see 1 3, a couple 3.5s. For me, I gave this a 4. It's Incoming. So I was randomly scrolling on Netflix when I stumbled upon this coming of age movie that looks generic as all get out from the JPEG imagery, since I saw that it was released this year, I thought that I would give it a shot. I was shocked to find that not only was this not forgettable garbage, it was one of the best comedy movies I've seen this year. With Hollywood's obsession with rehashing IPs, it's refreshing to find an original comedy with great jokes and characters. I need more Incoming in my life. It just sucks that you have to kind of sift a bit through the stream to find them, the streaming service that is Netflix. Yeah, I gave Incoming a 4 out of 5. I every time I watch one of these types of movies, like I watched the American Pie 4K, and that movie's so good still. It got me kind of in the mood to watch more of these movies. So when I stumbled upon Incoming, I decided to watch it, and I was very happy that I did. From the makers of the TV show The Mick with Caitlin Olsen. So if you watched The Mick and liked that TV show, this is more or less kind of the same thing, same vibes at least. Now we have a run of documentaries. So I'll try to go by these quick because sometimes I don't think people like to talk about documentaries. Number 24, Music by John Williams. A nice behind the scenes look into the music that this legend has created while diving deeper into his non-movie scores as well. Definitely fills your heart with warmth to see the master taking part in the craft, but could have done without the Chris Martin of it all, of Coldplay. Yes, Chris Martin loves the smell of his own farts, okay? He loves to ego trip, and he trips hard in this movie. Didn't like that aspect of it at all. Number 23, Bray Wyatt becoming immortal. R.I.P., man. Bray Wyatt was such a phenomenal talent, and to know that his talent won't be shared with the world anymore is a tragedy. Although he was one of the most unique talents to ever step into a wrestling ring, this doc celebrating his life really skimmed over his career. Would have liked to see more in this, but what we get in exchange is some great behind the scenes footage. 4 out of 5. Let's go to the next one. We have Steve Martin in 2 parts. This is on Apple TV Plus, by the way. Steve Martin has always been an actor that I love to watch. So when a documentary popped up on Apple TV Plus, I was pretty excited to check it out. This doc does a great job laying out the Hollywood career with his personal journey. It's like 4 hours long, right? 192 minutes, however long that is. But the first half kind of goes over him breaking onto the scene up until the end of his stand-up career. And then the second half is like the majority of his movies and where he's at now, like the latter half of his life. Morgan Neville has made some amazing documentaries. He also made Won't You Be My Neighbor. Haven't seen Piece by Piece, but really want to. Maybe Won't You Be My Neighbor is the only one that I've seen, but I really enjoyed Won't You Be My Neighbor a lot. They'll Love Me When I'm Dead is the isn't that Orson Welles movie documentary, I think. I love documentaries. Number 21, I have Mr. McMahon. Yes, I do like me some wrestling. I don't talk about it a lot, but I do like to watch it when I can. If you know little to nothing about the wrestling industry, this documentary will be very informative and eye-opening. As someone who's watched the product for over 20 years now, there isn't a lot of informative juice to squeeze from this 5-hour look into the life and times of Mr. McMahon. While it's told numerous times that these interviews took place before all the allegations were public, you can't help but feel bummed that even though this doc is new, it now feels old and out of date. Hopefully, this does well for Netflix, and a part 2 is down the road, because I think if one does enough digging, they will find a gold mine here. 4 out of 5. Let's get into the top 20 now. Another documentary. This might be one of the last. The Greatest Night in Pop. This one's worth checking out. Seeing this many stars of the 80s is still as impressive as it was when it originally came out. Seeing the process of a song being created was entertaining to watch throughout. The cast of characters in this, where they're coming up with We Are the World, just the process of what organization to kind of back and who should help make it. Like it was Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson, and who should be in the room singing the song. Had a blast watching this one. It was so informative. Number 19, Wicked. Should be Wicked Part 1. While there are a couple of scenes that I'm assuming most definitely played better on stage, and I would have cut a couple of songs from this, I couldn't help but be swooped up with Wicked. The practical stage sets help pull off the gravitas aura of something otherworldly. The chemistry from Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo is pitch perfect, and the couple of occasions where musical moments gave my skin goosebumps is why I go to musicals in the theater. 4 out of 5. P.S. I saw this with my oldest daughter, and when the credits started rolling, she simply shouted, "Wait, that's it!" Part 1s are never fun to witness. I think she saw one more part 1 besides this with Beyond the Spider-Verse, where they kind of just yelled, "What?" But yeah, I mean, I knew that going in. She did not, and but we're gonna be there weekend 1 for Wicked Part 2. Like that's what these companies want. Movie studios want double revenue when they can get the chance. Number 18, Luca Guadagnino's Challengers. Love me some Luca. The main glue that holds the story together is the relationship of the main 3 leads. But when that story starts to get a little sloppy, the cinematography picks up the slack. When neither are working that well, the amazing score helps lift up the momentum. I swear, watching this movie go back and forth between all these elements really felt like a tennis match at times, but it's one that I'm excited to rally back to again. 4 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed Challengers. Number 17, I told you, Doug Liman, back on the list. Yes, I feel like not enough people are talking about The Instigators. And on my friend list, a lot of 2s, a lot of 3s. 1 4 with me, which is good to see. The Instigators. I'm such a sucker for a heist film, and this one was no exception. It takes you on a fun ride, and anytime you can set your movie in Baston, you will always earn some brownie points from me. In a movie market full of IPs milking, it's nice to have an original idea make its way to my eyeballs. 4 out of 5. This is also an Apple TV Plus movie, if I do remember correctly. And yeah, heist films and coming of age films. Those are like my 2 soft spots of subgenres. Number 16, kind of heist film, Love, Lies, Bleeding. Wow, there are a lot of different thematic tones in this movie. 1 minute, it's a romantic monster-esque film, and the next, it's going on a drug-infused fear and loathing light bender of sorts. Overall, this film is a fun ride, but I just feel a drug trip you are left... What? Overall, this film is a fun ride, but just like a drug trip, you are left feeling a little disoriented once it's over. But also like a drug trip, I want to feel this movie pumping through my veins again. A 4 out of 5. I've been feeling the urge to rewatch this, and I want to pick up the A24 4K. I just need to finally drop some dough and add it to the collection. Number 15, We have Baby Reindeer. Really enjoyed watching this one on Netflix. I binged this in 2 sittings because I could not help but both watch this train wreck, but finish it as quickly as I could so it could be out of my life. You feel gross watching it and can't help but be upset at why both main sides are doing the things that they are doing. It's a rare feat to pull off a hate watch, but Baby Reindeer does just that. I loved, like, I like watching award shows, and one of my favorite things has been seeing Baby Reindeer absolutely clean up because it's unique programming that is being rewarded for its voice. And I absolutely love to see that. Number 14, Sting. No one's talking about this movie. My God. So many mediocre reviews of Sting. I had such a blast with this movie. So I knew nothing about this movie going into it, including what movie I was even going to see. Cinemark hosts a mystery movie Monday where you pay $5 and a new release movie plays. Just seeing this poster, I would have never went to see this movie, but I'm so glad I did because it fits so many of my favorite movie subgenres. Mix Home Alone, Alien, Evil Dead Rise, and a family drama into a blender, and you have this delicious treat that is Sting. This went from being unknown to me to one of my favorite movie theater going experiences I've had in years. 4 out of 5. Such a fun time. Kind of on the low budget. I guess it's streaming on Hulu now. This is a fun midnight watch. Recommend it. I recommend all of these. I'm going to stop saying I recommend it because everything 4 and above, I can wholeheartedly recommend. Just like my number 13? I think this is 13. Hitman. Richard Linklater. The Before trilogy, pretty much perfection. Dazed and Confused, everybody wants some. Love those movies, those hangout vibe movies. Boyhood was a cool concept. School of Rock is a very fun time. A lot of great movies in this man's filmography. This does what every movie should do. It starts strong and continues to build its plot and tension, pulling out one Jenga block out at a time. The tower was so damn close to falling over with a decision made towards the end, but I'm going to stretch my thought process that I normally do and just go with the flow because I had a great time with this movie. So yes, if you think about the ending a little hard, it's kind of like, why did it decide to go that way? But to me, it's a rare exception to where the ending didn't fully, like, even though I wasn't a huge fan of where they went on the ending, it didn't take away from the whole vibe that I had from the movie. 4 out of 5. P.S. I do think that this ending might be the main moment I think about when remembering this movie in the future, and that's absolutely true. Like, of course, Glenn Powell gets in some like silly get-ups and whatnot to stay undercover, but that last deciding factor of where both of these main characters decide to go, I'm still just like, God, I wish they didn't do that. Number 12, Smile 2. It's rare where I hate the first film in the franchise and fall in love with the sequel, but Smile 2 does just that. Having this set in the world of the music industry helps elevate the level of crazy that is on display at all times on your average day. Most scares are long and drawn out to help build tension instead of your average cheap jump scare. Naomi Scott is spectacular in this and definitely elevates the material given to her. She was a star on the rise before this movie, and I can't wait to see what she and director Parker Finn have or come out with next. 4 out of 5. P.S. The 4K is solid, but very muted for the majority thanks to a lot of muted color palettes. But there are scenes of vibrant colors from time to time that sing brightly. Love this movie so much. And I gave the first Smile a 2 out of 5. I did not like that movie whatsoever. So to go from like me not wanting to see a sequel to this movie to me loving the sequel, good stuff. Number 11, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. I could watch Aardman Animation all day, and whenever a new project from them pops up, it's essential viewing in our household. The new Wallace and Gromit is solid as always, with its deadpan dry humor and solid stop motion. 4 out of 5 stars. P.S. While I do enjoy having these on Netflix, I would love to see a 4K release of these films as well. Love me some stop motion animation. Love Wallace and Gromit, love Shaun the Sheep, love Chicken Run, love everything this studio does. And this is so freaking charming, just like everything else that they do. Like, yes, Wallace and Gromit, any Wallace and Gromit content, I'm a fan of. But now we're cracking in to the top 10 people. And again, in my top 10, it's not even a movie, it's a TV show of sorts. The Penguin is my number 10. I love the world from Matt Reeves, the Batman. I love the world from Matt Reeves, the Batman, also making television shows. Expanding on those blueprints made so much sense. This limited series is such a solid mobster tale that might be formulaic at times, but when the formula works, toss DCIP all over it and I'll eat it up. While with all TV shows, it might get long in the tooth at times, and plot points had me questioning if the character would actually make that decision. The show sticks the landing so well in the last episode that I'm happy with where it ended and want more vein taps from this world. 4 out of 5 stars. Think about this show quite often. Such powerhouse performances by so many people in here. Colin Farrell. We have a Christian Milioti. I really liked Clancy Brown's work as one of the main mob bosses as well. Good stuff throughout here. Number 9, My Old Ass. A lot of good reviews from a lot of the people that I follow on Letterboxd. Love to see that. God, I am such a sucker for coming of age movies. Mixing in talking with your older self is just the hook I need to make me fully fall in love with it. Everything about My Old Ass is solid from the plot, which is a bit easy to figure out, but the payoff is still worth it, to the cast and everything in between. 4 out of 5 stars. This is just a solidly done, simple film. Love me some Aubrey Plaza. This is streaming now on Amazon Prime. Yes. I love me. It's not a body swap movie, but it's still like talking to your older or younger self. Love that concept. It's pretty universal. Number 8, we have The Wild Robot. Sorry, lose my voice a little bit. DreamWorks animation has always been a mixed bag of quality for me. Thankfully, The Wild Robot falls more on the how to train your dragon side of things and brings major humor and heart to the table. I did not think that I would care what a goose and fox cared about a robot, but damn did this movie have my emotions hook, line, and sinker. My daughter has read all the books already, and I can't wait until another film makes its way to theaters because my family and I will be there opening weekend. 4 robots out of 5. Yeah, this movie still shocked me with how good it was, with how solid it was. Concept didn't seem like it was going to be for me, but they did something different with it. They made it feel wholly unique and not super generic. And at the end of the day, that's all you can really ask for. Number 7, Dune Part 2. As a person who didn't love the first film, I gave the first film a 3 out of 5. I am so glad I rewatched it before Part 2. It helped enrich my enjoyment of the second movie by far. While there is still a bit too much meandering in the desert for me, in the first third, the final hour of this movie had me floored. I was on the edge of my seat for the climax of this film, and this is why I love going to the movies. There are some jumps in time that didn't work for me and a couple of plot threads that felt unneeded, but the way that these character dominoes fell into place here was well worth the 5+ hour investment I made today between the two movies. 4 out of 5 stars. And yes, just like Sting was one of my favorite movie-going experiences in theaters, the last hour of Dune Part 2 might have been definitely like top 5 moments in 2024. Just the way everything crescendoed so beautifully in that last hour. Yes. And it has me chomping at the bit for Dune. I don't even think it's called Part 3, whatever the crap it's called. Prophecy, I think. That's not the show, right? I don't want to watch a show. Show takes place 10,000 years before this. I don't need more backstory, thank you. Number 6, Inside Out 2. I'm happy to report that the sequel manages to capture that Pixar magic that the original was able to catch as well. Joy and company all work off one another very well, and even the new emotions don't feel unnecessary. In fact, They all feel like welcome additions that honestly, going back to watch the original, will be odd to see them not there. They all play their part when it could have been very easy to lose control of the plot with all of these characters. Puberty is a real butthole, and while this is definitely a PG version of that, it still does a great job telling their inner monologue struggles that everyone goes through. 4 out of 5 stars. P.S. Please bring back the Pixar short before your movies. It felt off not having one. That's been happening the past few Pixar movies, and it just stinks. It stinks that the Pixar shorts are just kind of stuck on Disney Plus. Air them in front of your movie and then put them on Disney Plus. I don't know why you guys don't do that. But here are my top 5 movies of 2024. Number 5, the last documentary on the list, we have Beatles 64 streaming on Disney Plus. I had a bird's eye view here's my review. Oh, yeah. I had a bird's eye view understanding of the original US tour that the Beatles had, but this documentary does a phenomenal job at capturing so many different people's experiences from this time. I know that Disney Plus has a lot of Beatles content to choose from, but this has been my favorite I've seen so far. 4.5 out of 5. And it's true. Like the Get Back documentary is like, God, is that 10 hours long? Like it just, that one just went on and on, but it was still fascinating to watch, like as a fly in a wall material. This was a very well told documentary about the first US tour that the Beatles went on. So fascinating. If you like the Beatles at all, I feel like this documentary is essential viewing. Number 4, I have The Brutalist. Just got done watching this movie in theaters last week. Loved experiencing this one on the big screen. Its scope was so large, but I never felt lost. Its runtime was so long, but I never felt the movie drag. The Brutalist title, all in itself, has such a multi-layered meaning to it that you could have a discussion about for hours. While I wish the second half played as strong as the first half, the intermission really feels like it's placed perfectly. This is the type of movie that I love to see in the movie theater. The scope is so grandiose. The scope of this grandiose tale played just as well as a summer blockbuster. 4.5 out of 5 stars. This movie is very, very long, but to me, I never felt the runtime on this sucker. Adrian Brody is such a powerhouse in this movie. And the supporting cast was also very, very good. Like, to me, I love going to the movies for experiences like this. And I always try to see every movie nominated for an Oscar before the Oscars air, just so I have a little bit more skin in the game. I think I've seen 4 of the 10 finalists. I have Conclave. I think I have one more. There's going to be a couple that it's going to be close to if I watch them in time or not. But we'll see. One that didn't get nominated for Best Picture, which I think really should have, was Nosferatu, my number 3 movie of 2024. I'm usually not a fan of period piece films. From the dialogue to the setting, I'm always pulled out of these movies from sheer boredom. But Nosferatu really sunk its teeth into me, and I was compelled from start to finish. Eggers has a way of world building that I just can't get enough of, and the drab setting here helped to build the overall fear that Orlok cast upon everyone. Lily Rose Depp was really the only weak point at times, but by the end, I liked more from her than what I didn't. Can't wait to see what comes next from Eggers, and I'm happy to see this film is performing better than what The Northman did. 4.5 out of 5. P.S. Almost left a review of You Mustache Be Mine, but decided to flesh out my thoughts here a little bit more. And yeah, Nosferatu really freaking surprised me. I didn't know what side of the fence I was going to fall on this movie. But God, Robert Eggers, man, he just knows how to tell. He has so much confidence as a director. And Nosferatu is already an IP that's semi-well known, and he just put his own spin onto it, and to me, completely knocked it out of the park. But one movie that I liked a little bit more, my number 2 movie of the year, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. I decided to binge the franchise before I watched this installment. Was it necessary? No, but I'm glad that I did solely because of the world building that this installment brings to the table. Fury Road felt more like a Cliff's Notes version of everything the Wasteland has to offer, and Furiosa really lets you sink your teeth into lore, and I loved every second of it. I heard that George Miller wants to make another film in this world, and man, I hope he gets the chance. 4.5 out of 5. He's not going to get that chance. because this movie did not make any money. Huge box office bomb, which is too bad. I am in the rare light. I feel like there's nobody else saying that Furiosa is better than Fury Road, but I honestly think that. I think Fury Road is a very simple film from point A to point B that's told beautifully. But Furiosa adds so much aura and so much environment building to that first movie. It just feels like a great starting point. Like, watch Furiosa, then watch Fury Road, and you'll get so much enjoyment out of that 5-hour experience or however long it is. Love this movie so much. And I love the movie going experience of Furiosa. But the only movie that I rated a 5 out of 5 to in 2024 was Late Night with the Devil. Love this movie so much. I have always loved watching late night talk shows. There is something so comforting about a core group of people with rotating guests trying to entertain an audience for its runtime. Implementing that setting into a horror film with a live seance is genius. But what really makes this movie sing is its ability to implant you into the era of the 1970s and make you feel like you are watching the actual broadcast. There isn't a part of this movie that I would change. And just when I thought that the ending jumped the shark, it ends up being a brilliant cherry on top of a perfect watch. If this isn't my favorite movie of the year, then 2024 turned out to be pretty damn good. 5 out of 5. P.S. I purposefully waited to watch this for free on Shudder, and I'm so bummed that I didn't get to see it in theaters when I had the chance. And not free on Shudder, like I just have a subscription. But I'm so pissed at myself that I did not see this in theaters. My favorite movie of the year, Late Night with the Devil. 5 out of 5. Let me know your thoughts on what your favorite movies of the year of 2024 were. Let me know your thoughts on what movies I still need to watch from 2024. Because again, I feel like I'm constantly playing catch up on 2024. I try to watch as many movies as I can in January to kind of binge. A lot of those are Oscar movies. But let me know what movies you think I should go and put at the top of my 2024 watch list. Thank you for watching this far. And until next time, I will see you.